Good evening, everyone. We are live. We're talking about secret messages in comics right now, and I'll repeat one of my favorite John Romita stories to enter this when he was talking about there's a chapter in Wortham's book Seduction of the Innocent called "Pictures for Children Who Know How to Look." And it's, he went around and found penis drawings in the musculature of some guys and hidden drawings here and there, hidden messages. And John Romita said he always defended those artists. And he was like, "Oh my goodness, he's crazy. People aren't hiding stuff in the drawings," until he actually talked to one of the artists. And he was like, "No, we were bored and hiding stuff in the drawings."
So it wasn't they were being malicious. It was more like
No, they were just
we're just
bored
bored.
and doodling and hidden penises in their drawings.
Hmm.
Good evening, Tit Goblin. Dudes, hello all. Good evening,
Hello,
Mind the
welcome.
Comics. Good to see you back.
I know that because I did art returns and you'd be looking at the original art, you
Right.
knew when an artist was bored because on the back there'll be all kinds of drawings, all kinds of craziness on there, and sometimes it would just be the next page that they're planning to draw, so it'll be a quick thumbnail, or or it could just be
Rick
anything.
Parker. Let me show you off my Rick Parker stuff again. Hold on. Let me grab it from back here, see if I can find it quickly. Oop, I just saw one. There we go. These are, I've shown these before, but I'll show them again. It's been a while. Rick Parker was Beavis and Butthead artist, and he was also a longtime letterer for Marvel. And he used to draw, and when he would do the way they would do comics at Marvel, my actual job before things went digital was to paste down word balloons on pages. Because ideally how it was done was the writer would write a plot, give it to the penciler would pencil the plot, it would go back to the writer who would script it, then it would go to the letterer who would letter it, and then it would go to the inker who would ink it. Everything was always late. Well, first of all, they started doing this on late books, but then every book, they started doing it. By the time I was there in the 90s, there was like nothing being lettered on the original art. So what they would do is they would send the inker the page of pencils, and they'd send the letterer a photocopy of the page of pencils. And the letterer would take a piece of vellum tracing paper, which is a thick, durable tracing paper, would put it on top of the photocopy of the pencils and letter on that vellum paper. And then when the lettering and inks got back in the bullpen, it was our job to match them up. So we would have to take the page of vellum. Then we'd have to take whiteout and white out the back of all the balloons and captions, and then put rubber cement on the back of all the balloons and captions, and cut out each balloon and paste it down where it's supposed to go, and then touch up the little edges so it looks like it wasn't pasted down. There wasn't like a halo around the balloon of white. So that was my actual job in the early 90s before desktop publishing. I would white out the back of balloons, cut them out, and paste them seamlessly on the original art, which is all the art you can see from that era you can pasted up balloons on it. But Rick Parker was one of the letterers who did lettering on the vellum, and he used to draw cartoons all over the vellum. So let me get this bigger. We'll show you some of these.
I don't think I see these.
So, and I wish I only saved, like, here he is giving instructions. Here, that's just like page 19. He would draw that. Thump. You can use this sound effect if you want. Here's this stuff. So, and we used to get page after page after page of this stuff. These are just some of them I saved. I only saved a few brief ones that I was like, I got to save some of these. love that Frankenstein. But they're just, ephemera. There's the
Yeah,
word. So it's like you can
those are
see I
great.
saved about 20 of these out of hundreds. And I may have been the only one who saved any too.
Hmm.
But these just a lot of Rick Park. If he was really in a rush, there was just quick, brief ones maybe. But I guess if you wanted to work in color, and they say stuff like, say, why not use the logo Rick Parker designed just for old time's sake? The one thing. Please center elements of title. Oh, one just fell. Note guidelines on back of page. Stuff like Bobby. That's Bobby Chase. Is these credits okay? I changed them a bit. I guess he was just getting creative. Editor note combined due to inadequate space. So it was just like little notes he left on the page. Hey guys, as you know, Tom don't especially want no more those curse word replacement things. So why not try these on for size? And you've got repulsive rodent, low life scum sucker, ignorant little bug.
So
It's
Tom,
got
I'm
things you
guessing he
can
means
use.
Tom DeFalco.
Eat fat, die young. That's a steak and cheese. That's what that is, which is page 19.
Hmm.
But these just some of the ephemera. Let me move this phone. Even though it's always just spam calling.
Oh, that's all I get nowadays.
Yeah.
It's spams. Once in a while, I'll pick it up to mess with the person and get them to curse because
Yeah.
it's fairly easy
So
sometimes.
cool.
But
I've
that's really cool to see because I never saw those. And it's a
Yeah.
cool little peek into the creation of comics that people
Right.
never see. Because again,
Yeah.
like I mentioned, you flip to the back, 9 times out of 10, all it's going to have is a stamp. It might have the comics code stamp, or it might have my old stamp, which was the copyright information. I used to sign those just because, oh, I'm going to put my mark in somewhere. And again, sometimes there would just be illustrations on there that have
Right.
nothing to do with the book. It was just that particular day. I have to see if I ever kept any of them because Tom Morgan, who used to draw Iron Man, put a bunch of funny ones that
Okay.
he would draw like women pirates just hanging out, talking off to the side, and it would be like I had gotten chuckles out of that. I don't know if I ever made a copy and kept one,
That's
but
just
again,
it. I wish I had saved more stuff, but if I did, there's a good chance I would be inundated in paper.
exactly. Yep.
Because that's what it is. First of all, you're young. You think you think this is how the world is. You don't think that everything's ephemeral.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and like you'd be inundated with because we used to, when we'd be doing hand paste up, we'd be doing 20 pages a day, whatever. So you'd have tons and tons of stuff going through. And if I were to save, and some days I wish I did save all those photocopies of everybody's pencils. I've got a few examples, but then I would have like 1,000 photocopied pages
Yeah, I
somewhere.
have approximately, I think, 5 FedEx boxes
Ah,
full of pages of
I
various stuff, of just like no order or anything. Every now and then I'll open a box and look at them and go, these are pretty cool, but not
a,
really much I could do with them.
a few years ago, I scanned in all of my stuff and all of Ed Murr's stuff just to have a record of it. Just,
Right.
I actually want to. One of the things I want to do one day is make sort of an archive of that stuff, just sort of on like Dropbox or something that people can access, just like all this ephemera that no one can access, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of like disappears into the night.
Hmm.
If there was like I'll have to organize that. It'll take some doing.
Yeah. I mean,
Marvel
it,
Secret Vaults.
Marvel
Yeah.
Secret Vault, exactly. Because
Not just
again,
Marvel, everyone's. What do
Marvel's
you
not
got?
doing it,
I got
and
some
it's
I
like,
got some stuff Bob Wyacek gave me that someone gave him, just like
mm,
random photocopies of stuff. He's like, "Oh, I photocopied this 20 years ago because I liked it. Want to scan it in?" I'm like, "Sure."
yeah, exactly. And then there's plenty of things like that. And I got to go through my stuff and do that because there was
Yeah.
one time where I asked, "Hey, can I get a scanner for my office?" Because there's always old stuff popping up.
Yeah.
And they're not scanned in. Maybe we could scan them in and use it for something down the
Right.
line. And they're like, nah, it's old stuff. We're not going to use it. And it's like,
Yeah.
you just can't. It's like today I found this folder. So this is an
Ah.
old Thor folder. I don't know what series this would have been from. I mean, which company would have done this?
But they were doing they were using that image all the way back when I was a kid.
So this says it's the company's called
Yes,
Mead
Mead makes
Productions,
notebooks.
and it doesn't say the year. But
Mead
even
was
on
I bought Mead notebooks back in the late 70s, early 80s when I was in school. So,
So there's some artwork on the bottom as well on the inside.
ah,
Mhm.
And I had to have gotten this from Marvel because I have no memory of buying this. This is copyright 1975 Marvel Comics Group.
oh
But
wow,
I don't know if that's the copyright to the folder or it happened to be on the artwork. I would imagine it is the folder
yeah.
itself.
They were definitely around in 1975 because, like I said, I know that was the Thor cover they used on a lot of stuff.
And I
Yeah,
would
that's
say
from Journey into Mystery.
the last time I would have seen this was probably in the 90s because the stuff that's in it makes no sense to me whatsoever, other than, yes, this is something I would have done. I would have grabbed these items and tossed it in that folder and completely forgot about them. So
Mind the
I
Comics
have,
just finished remodeling his office. Spent 2 weeks moving and ripping paper.
uh huh. So I'm
Hmm.
moving things around in here. So here's from 1993, a TSR
Yeah, that's
collector's cards. And all this stuff looks like it's all from 1993. So this is
uh-huh.
TSR collector cards, uncut sheet.
So those are like babes of Dungeons and Dragons or something?
I'm guessing so because they're all different. It's Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It's from each series. So you got the Dark Sun series, um, Ravencroft. So these are all
Uh-huh.
different modules. So I guess they picked some women from each of the modules and put it up to it. So it's a limited print run, one rare card for every 2 packs of 24 cards. And cards
Uh,
were a big thing in the 90s. Here's
oh,
one
the
for Tops and Image.
barcodes on comics were 1976. Interesting that the folder said 75 yet has a barcode. Yeah, well, I guess folders probably had barcodes before
I
comics.
would imagine so because they were using barcodes on everything, and comics are the last to, you know, move
Hello,
into
Paolo and his minions.
technology. Remember Ultraverse?
Oh
Ultraverse.
yeah. Remember the Ultra? That reminds me of those music compilations that were sold on TV ads back in the 90s.
Oh
Remember
yeah.
the
Ah,
Remember the
remember
90s?
the
very cool. Those D&D ones reminded me that right after Magic the Gathering became big, Dungeons and Dragons put out their own card game, which was terrible.
Oh
But
yeah.
I may have some of their cards just because I'd like to collect various cards. But yeah, they were not Ultraverse. He's got the Ultraverse poster.
And on the back are some
I
black and white
believe he
image.
likes the Ultraverse. Oh, nice.
I bought them all. I
I
was
did
into
not.
it.
I
They
don't
had
think I ever read an Ultraverse comic, but I
I'm
wasn't
I'm
reading any
sh-
superhero comics at that point.
and I'm sure they were the ones that had commercials in the 90s.
Okay.
So the fact that they had commercials and in Westchester they had bought the bus stops would have big
Ah,
Ultraverse posters and stuff like that on there. So as far as
wow.
advertising comics, Ultraverse did well. You can even find some of the old commercials on YouTube. They're available because
I
again
wonder
they
I wonder
they
what
did
their
a good job.
market share was that they would have swung if DC had bought them. It would have swung the market share from Marvel to DC because that's
Mm,
why Marvel bought them. Is
Right.
so DC couldn't get their market share. But I wonder what it was.
I think 8% could have done it,
Yeah, that big? Wow.
probably.
It probably did. I don't know if you're friends with any of the people from Malibu. Uh,
No.
online, I can ask them.
Yeah. Ask them sometime.
All right.
So what
Yeah, but
was that market share?
yeah, I would not be surprised if it was 8%.
Yeah. Ultraverse entertained me, especially early on before Marvel bought them. Well, they didn't
Yeah,
entertain anyone after Marvel
they
bought them. Pretty much.
yeah, not after. But before, you know what? I think they were fun books.
Yeah.
They were a set of superhero titles that weren't Marvel, weren't DC, but felt safe enough to give them a try.
Ah.
And I enjoyed them because they were doing odd things with them. Prime, which is kind of like Captain Marvel, he was a kid who could turn into this superhero, but he still had the kid's mentality. Kind of again,
Right.
unlike Captain Marvel, where he always seemed to be an adult when he
Yep.
changed, but he was still a kid, and he just wanted to be this ultimate superhero. So when he turned into Prime, that was the superhero he had in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
So he was exaggerated. He looked like what a kid would think a superhero would be. And the oddness of it is when he turned back to human, he would shed the skin. So they would be this goopy remnants of a person, of a body lying around. And eventually someone took one of those bodies and made it into an evil duplicate. So they were fun stories. I
Right.
think they were hitting the market for superheroes that were, if you didn't want Marvel or DC, here was a alternative
If you
that was
thought
pretty
modern
good.
comics sucked, then you could buy Ultraverse comics.
Yep. And they
Sleepy
they had a
says
pretty good
Ultraverse.
stable of artists on there. I can't remember any of them off the top of
Yeah.
my head right now.
Sleepy says Ultraverse was kind of like a reboot of the combined Marvel and DC universe. That's interesting.
That's a good way
Well,
to put it.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
definitely because
Kind of like a
well,
cicada.
yeah, but you had Steve
Fine.
Englehart, you had Gerard Jones, you had George Perez.
It's like
There were
I noticed they had a lot of sort of the artists that the hot young artists displaced.
I can see that. Gibbons did this hard case cover for issue number 1. That's a Gibbons cover.
Hold on, let me go close.
yeah. It even has Gibbons instead of doing a DC field, he's doing a British field because that looks like a cover from a Marvel UK edition or something from IPC.
Hmm.
Ah.
Yeah, he also did the front cover, so he was doing this work, and again, it kind of does, as you mentioned, that British kind of feel to it.
Uh,
Yeah, because
Costumes are totally 90.
I think Dave Gibbons was one of those guys who, despite having drawn the most popular graphic novel of the 20th century, no one was really excited. No one was really excited about him, kind of thing. You would think. I don't think he was as respected as other artists. Like, Dave, despite
he
how
was never
good Watchmen
flashy.
is and how much of it is because of Dave Gibbons, he doesn't get any credit for it.
Well,
And
people are kind of focused on Alan Moore's
right.
overly descriptive scripts, but yeah, but no, Gibbons is a good illustrator, and you can tell from Martha Washington, which is Frank Miller's best work.
Yeah, Gibbons is terrific, but no, he never.
He's not flashy.
No, well, it's not even that he's not. I'm not even talking about his. I'm talking his sort of reputation. He was never a fan favorite somehow, and so he never had any sort of clout from having done Watchmen, which is really strange. Because you would think that, Marvel and DC would be pursuing the guy who drew Watchmen to do lots of comics for them. But I don't think that ever happened.
No, in 1993, no, because Marvel is dealing with the Image guys getting ready to
Right.
leave or leaving, and that whole no more superstar artist.
So I
So
think
I
Ultraverse got the benefit of a lot of those guys who just sort of got weren't as popular uh, as their talent should have made them. So I think that's why people liked Ultraverse too.
Yeah, and I think that again that at least they had a big enough market share where those guys were, making a living. I don't know exactly the parameters, like page rates or anything like that, but I did know that at some point they got, I think, a percentage of the characters. I'm not exactly
Right.
sure what it was because when I got the artwork, they sent all the artwork from California to me, and I was trying to get the artwork back to the artist. So I was like, did you guys bother to get telephone numbers? You bought this company. Where's the information? I need to send these back. And as I got ready to send them back, it was told to me that they have a different set of contracts and how the comics are, the artworks distribute back. And I was like, all right, what is it? Let me know. And they couldn't get the information. I even tried to go, could we just break it down the Marvel way? It was I believe a difference of maybe 1 or 2 pages. And it's like,
Right.
I'm willing to work with people. I want to send these back. And they were basically, don't worry about it, put it to the side, we'll figure it out later. And
And they
never
never
did.
did. They didn't
Never
care.
did. And I've talked to many artists who's like, "Hey, would you know where the art is?" And it's like, at some point, I was told it was sent out of Marvel. It was sent into storage, and that was the last I've heard about it.
You're right about displaced artists. Norm Brayfogle, Barry Smith, George Perez, etc. Yesterday's superstars. Norm Brayfogle, not even a superstar, but the regular Batman artist who.
Right. That there was
Mhm.
there's still,
Right.
those were artists who may have not been superstars, but they consistently
Right.
sent in work, was always on time, was always getting work at that time because they got the work in on time.
hmm And they got Goebel and Engelhart. Yeah,
Mhm.
yesterday's superstar writers too. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And even at Bravura, they had Gil Kane
That's
and Jim
right.
Starlin.
Yep.
Yeah.
I may have to pull out some old Ultraverse books and look through them. I even think I
Yeah.
still have some of those. What were they called? The Malibu Sun, which was their
Oh, okay.
catalog and stuff like
First
that.
Spawn, Malibu Sun number 13 or something.
Something like that. Yeah, I probably have it within all the ephemera that I have here.
I don't think I ever bought a Malibu book at all. Not one.
Not even the
Unless
one with the hole in the
hold on, was
center of it.
Rune Malibu?
I believe
Yeah.
Rune was
I take
Malibu
that back then. I bought Rune. That's the
because
one
of Barry
Malibu
Windsor
book I
Smith.
bought, the Barry Windsor Smith one.
Hmm.
Yesterday's Superstar got me buying it.
Uh huh.
And I was completely not buying like any superhero books at that time. It was all indie stuff.
You didn't consider Malibu indie?
No, well, they're all indie non-superhero stuff, let's call it.
Hmm.
And speaking of yesterday's superstars, I picked up the Spider-Man 300 facsimile,
Nice.
which is what $7. They have a foil version too, but I bought the foil Hulk 181 just to get an example of one, and I didn't like it at all
No.
because the foil page was bent, kind of. It curves. It doesn't lie flat. The foil like curves up. There was no reason to pay extra money for bad foil cover.
It was
But I
probably too
got
thin.
this, which is funny because I had a copy of Spider-Man 300, which I sold a few years ago, but I don't remember buying a copy of Spider-Man 300 because I had long since been out of Spider-Man by the time 300 rolled around. The only thing I have a vague memory of picking one up at Marvel in the early 90s. Just that was like lying around the office. I was like, oh, may as well have a Spider-Man 300, but I'm not sure if I did or not, or if I bought it when it came out and I went, oh, I may as well buy Spider-Man 300. It's like my memory is so either one of those things could have happened.
Yeah.
And I had a Spider-Man 300 on my shelf for decades and didn't even know it. And eventually said, oh, I may as well sell this, and sold it. But I got this one. I was like, I want to see what the Todd McFarlane's the printing looks like, and it's real good on the modern and you can really see Todd McFarlane's line in this, slick, much higher parts per million.
Ooh, I may have to
printing.
pick that up.
The printing, it was just real nice. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed it when I read it. I was never a fan of McFarlane's Spider-Man. I think I read some of his his adjective-less Spider-Man, Spider-Man's Torment, Todd McFarlane. I remember reading some of that, and it was just laughable. But this was really well done. Michelini is writing it.
Mm-hmm.
Rick Parker is lettering it. Speaking of Rick Parker,
Yep.
And I think
Todd had a lot of fun in those early Spider-Man issues he did.
Yeah, I think he was having a lot of fun. I thought that the relationship between Peter Parker and Mary Jane was very sweet. It was just a really well constructed story.
Even
There
the
was a
story
clarity
leading
to
up
it
to
that
that
I enjoyed.
issue
Like
was
I said,
good.
the art looks terrific in this printing on this paper. You can really see McFarlane's line like you couldn't on the newsprint. But there's also something weird I want to check out where there's an awful lot of white space on the bottom. And I know comics have shrank a little bit over the years, but I was like, have they really shrunk that much that the
Shouldn't be that
proportion was
much.
that much off, or were they?
Shouldn't be. In 1988, they still had page numbers, right?
I don't know. But they could have been cut off in the digital files, the page numbers, because they were just at the bottom. But yeah, I think they still did. But the page numbers always went outside the copy safe area anyway. So I'm gonna have to measure an old comic from this time, just because I was like, this seems a little small. I think they could have blown this up a little bigger.
They may have printed that a little smaller than they should have.
Let me see. That looks like over a quarter inch. Here we go. We're measuring comic book copy safes areas now. Yeah, that's a quarter inch. Well, 5/16 really. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. It's just weird. It seemed that there was more space at the bottom than there should be. Here we go. This is the channel where we measure comic books right in the middle of talking to you. But I must say, I enjoyed reading this a lot more than I thought I would.
Speaking of reading facsimile editions, so I finally read the Batman 357.
Okay.
Right? So it's the facsimile edition, the first appearance of the Squid. I actually read it cover to cover. I even looked at the ads. It was just one morning. I took it with me to the park where I was having a cup of coffee. And the funny thing about the first ad is a Spider-Man ad. For
I
the
noticed that when I
Atari,
saw you on TikTok.
the Atari video game. And I thought that was entertaining. A Hubba Bubba ad. I remember that. I remember that gum. And it's like I think I'm going to probably do a TikTok of just the ads themselves. Grit. Those appeared in every comic book we ever read. And then comic book conventions that were going on at the time. And the thing that wowed me about this, going through it, seeing ads, Sergeant Rock toys from Remco, I have no memory of these toys. Now,
Ah,
Remco to me were usually the large 12-inch figures, but they also did G.I. Joe size figures. I had no idea. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole looking those up where it's like, do I want to try to find these? And it's like, no, I don't need another hobby. And then
hey,
what surprised me the most is in the back of the book. So in Meanwhile, which was their own kind of stand soapbox, they're talking about a convention of just
uh-huh.
DC creators together coming to New York at one of the hotels, and they did kind of like the summit on that day, and that was fascinating. And then what blew my mind was reading the letters page for bat signals. Now I have not confirmed, but there are two names in the letter pages that they're writing as fans, but they eventually would become comic book artists. So you have John Hibbert,
Okay.
who is on here, who eventually would draw Punisher, and I think some pages of Batman. And then what was crazy, and again, I have not confirmed this, but there's Kevin Dooley, who would eventually
Huh,
become a DC editor.
right, I know that name.
So it's like I have
Hmm.
not contacted them yet online to find out if this just coincidence with these names or are they the actual people from it. And then another Atari ad on the back.
Wow. Sleepy just asked here. Well, first, good evening, Comic Crack, you handsome son of a bitch. He said, what were you buying circa 1992, Jared? What were the indies that you looked at back then? I just decided I went on Mike's Amazing World here to see if I could see. First of all, Captain America 408 was that. Captain America was the one Marvel comic I read all the way from my childhood until Layfeld started doing it.
And
So that was the
408 was
one.
one of the Capwolf issues, right?
Um, is it? Yes, it's one. Looks. Hold on. 408. Yeah, it looks like Capwolf. You got it. Then let's see. What else was I reading? Da, 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 da. Oh, Dark Horse Presents #1. I was reading Dark Horse Presents. It was like a second printing was out that month. Dark Horse Presents was that didn't start in '92, right?
No, the the Dark Horse comics started in '85.
Yeah.
Dark Horse presents in '92.
Dark Horse Presents started in '90. No.
Yeah, because that's the second anthology. The good stuff.
What was the first one?
Dark Horse Comics. It was also called the Dark Horse Comics.
No, it was this one. Dark Horse Presents Black Cross was the first one. Says it's
Yeah.
that was the one from the 80s.
Yeah.
So they must have reprinted it 10 years later.
No.
But I was buying that. Yeah,
No, there was a new
Dark Horse Presents, pardon me, Dark Horse Presents 65 was out as well as a reprint of #1.
Okay.
So I was buying Dark Horse Presents. Let's see. Debbie Does Dallas from Malibu. I don't remember that. 8 Ball. I was buying 8
Before
Ball.
they became Ultraverse, there was a lot of things they were trying.
Wow, I did not know
Malibu
that
existed
existed.
before the Ultraverse.
Wow, it's Debbie. Man, I love these new cable services, and Debbie is walking out of the TV. Wow, that was a surprise. Let's see, what else was I reading? 8 Ball, I said. Green God. Oh, it was a Godzilla special. Didn't read that. Grendel. Grendel War Child. I don't think I was reading Grendel by the time War Child #1 came out. So I think I was off Grendel. But that was one I read through the 80s. Oh, there was still Hot Stuff comics in the 92. Look at that.
Yeah, Harvey restarted in '88 and it'll last for a couple more years.
Okay.
And then Marvel tried to restart Harvey and they ended up turning into Star Comics.
Mhm.
Let's see what else is here. I see comics I used to read, but ones I actually Marvel Age 117.
Mhm.
Love and Rockets I was reading at that time too. Number 39 was out. Miracle Man I had given up on by then. Let's see. Not a lot of indie comics. Naughty Bits number 6. I got a few issues of that, but I don't know if I ever got number 6 because I would see it irregularly. So only a handful of comics this month. Gru the Wanderer. I was still buying Gru, so there's number 94. I know I got that. Space Usagi number 3. I got Space Usagi. What else do we have here? So that looks like it's it. Is there an Usagi out? I don't think there was a regular Usagi since Space Usagi was at. Wildcats Covert Action Teams number 1. I didn't buy that till much later.
Wildcats number 1. It was a fun read.
Yeah, wasn't bad.
I mean, there's a lot of posing, which of course there is. It's Jim Lee, but yeah, but it was fun to read from beginning to end. It made me want to read more.
I didn't start reading Wildcats till like issue. At that time I would like let them get 5 or 6 issues into something and try it. So I bought like issues, I don't know, 5 or 6 of Wildcats. I can't even remember, somewhere
I bought
around
it in
there.
'96 because the Brazilian edition came out in '96.
And I liked it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And they'd also just come out with like a slim trade paperback that reprinted maybe the first 4 issues. So I picked that out and then started buying Wildcats. Just why not?
And the villain of the piece, Dan Quayle.
I bought Spider-Man yesterday too. I liked it. I don't remember the topless MJ scene as a kid. Yeah, well, you actually get to see her. It was implied. Good evening. The measure of excellence. The rulers in the live stream comic world. Does anyone have a copy of Grit? I do not. I delivered the Troy record as a child, was intrigued by Grit in the comics. The only person I ever met who sold Grit was Mort Todd, former Marvel editor in the 90s, Marvel music editor Mort Todd. He said he sold Grit as a kid.
Then he is the only one I've ever heard that sold them.
Me too.
Because I always wondered, because I never did it, but I always wanted to like buy stuff from the back of a comic book. But I always heard about how, those are just scams. No one will ever get anything from it. So it's like I always wanted to get like the Army Men and the Cowboys and Indians, because every few months they would change what set of armies. And it was like the soldiers I wanted to get because they came with a Foot Locker, and I thought that was an amazing concept. And it's like, but I never got them.
It was Bunch who told me. I think he must have ordered them once. Those 100 or 200 soldiers or whatever they were cardboard.
Were
so
they?
They were flat.
Oh, what a disappointment! Yeah. Wow.
They weren't like Army Men. That's why you could get 200 soldiers for $2.95 because they're flat pieces of cardboard that are punch out.
I would have been so upset.
I actually wondered if Grit was real, and one day I can't remember. I can't remember if it was in a Grotto stream or in a Graphic Man stream. Somebody actually produced a copy of Grit, so it was real.
Yeah, I've never seen a copy of Grit. What kind of magazine was it supposed to be?
It was a newspaper, I think. So it was printed on newsprint.
Yeah. It had like local news.
Yeah. Had like good news or something like that.
Really? Okay. Because I thought it would have been some sort of catalog because of all the things
it was sort of like a generic good news newspaper, from what I understand. I've never seen a copy. And I always looked at that and went, this has to be some sort of scam. That seems like too much work. Because you had to
But you had to
buy
buy
the
them.
you would spend like $20 buying a stack of grit from then, and you have to then go out and sell it. And are they the one who gave around? And then you had to like send the money to them and get prizes or something. It was all seemed shady to me.
Yeah, I knew they had something to do with prizes. Since this is just a half a page ad, this is not the usual grit ad. Because I remember there would be ads on all the things you can get from grit.
Right, right.
I always thought they were a catalog type thing.
No.
And
Grit, what a
then,
name for a family newspaper.
and what's
Now,
fascinating too,
here's one thing that I would actually like to know. Did someone actually go to a Count Dante school of martial arts?
They actually, I read, I don't know if anyone went, but there is, what do you say, Count Dante.
it's not Count Dante, but it is a pro fighting game. So this particular ad, which we always see, I always thought Marvel was selling little individual ad spaces. But from reading this, it looks like there was one company that did it and then would buy the ad space from
Ah,
Marvel.
so
So again,
Marvel wasn't,
things as a kid, I never bothered to look at this. Now as an adult reading it, there's information that basically says, where to send to get the ad spaces. And then reading these
ah,
ads, they're fascinating because some people are like, we'll set your poem to music. I've heard about that particular scam where it's like you would send a poem in and they would create music for you,
yeah,
charge you, and then it's like now you have this. And then what made it a scam is apparently they copyrighted that whole thing. So your
ah.
poem was given music was written for your poem and now you lost the rights to your poem.
There was a
Then
book that came out about 10 years ago. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was about all of the ads that were in comics in the 70s. It told, that's where I read a biography of Count Dante because they had like the history of Count Dante in there and who he was and when he placed the ads and how so they like tracked the history of a lot of the ads in 1970s comic books.
that's
Um,
really cool. That's
it was,
wild.
I can't remember. I'll have to ask Bunch because he was the one who lent me his copy. But yeah, so there is a book about all those ads, believe it or not. Then there's the story about the what is the name of it? The Paramus amusement park in the DC comic ads in like the 60s and 70s.
I don't know about that one.
There were what is the name of the place? I think it closed in the 70s, like Palisades Amusement Park, maybe, which I
I've heard
think was in Paramus, New Jersey. And there was always a little ad in it for it in DC Comics throughout, like, I don't know, the late 60s, early 70s. And someone inquired about that sometime over the years and found out that some people at DC had invested in the amusement park. So therefore, they always made sure there was an ad for it in the DC Comics. I was like, interesting.
Wow. Then one of the oddest things on here is this
I saw
thing
someone review
called
a biocomic about Count Dante. Oh man.
so there's this thing called Rise of the Chosen. And as I read it, it basically is the premise of a game that you could play by mailing in information. And you would just basically do a role playing game via the mail
Oh, so it was like
with
instead of
other
chess
people.
by mail, it was an RPG by
It was
mail?
an RPG by mail, I believe. Let
Wow.
me just Monolith Games are the ones that did it. And it's like you are Rockwell, Duke of Windsor, and it goes to tell you about it's a play by mail fantasy adventure game, like no
Wow.
other. Accept your fate. Send $10 now for the setup, the rule book, the maps, and the first 3 turns. So
Ah.
$10 in when is this
85,
1983?
83.
You know how many comic books that is, and
Yeah.
sending $10 to this thing. So I don't know. It's just again fascinating to read these little things, and someone selling original artwork. So it's like just bought a copy. You just bought a copy. Now buy the original. Over 200 DC and Marvel original art pages for sale. Send 50 cents and a self-addressed stamp envelope. And say that you saw this ad in a DC book. And some guy named Jeff Rudolph was selling artwork out of Connecticut. It's
Wow.
like amazing to see what's on the back of these things. Because as a kid, you know, I look at the ad, yeah, whatever, and I just
Right.
kept going. But to see these things in there and reading old comics and seeing like Mile High's catalog in the center, and you see the
Oh,
prices of some of those books,
I used
and it's like,
before
good
then in the late
Lord.
70s, I used to send them a quarter so I could get their printed catalog.
You actually got those? I never sent anything in. Because at some point when I was a kid, someone said every ad in a comic book is a scam, no
Well, I
matter
knew
what
that
it
one
is.
wasn't. Here's one of the comics I got this week. Time Before Time, issue number 26. This continues to be good. I think it's only going to 30. This is the one that's about time travel and two, gangster syndicates that run time travel sort of on the down low. And, most of the population has no idea about time travel. And we've been following a pair who we were introduced in the first issue. They're still going. Their stories have diverged and come together and diverged, and they're coming together again. And it's just been a good comic. It's had different artists on it. The same two writers, Rory McConville and Declan Shalvey. And this arc is drawn by Jeffo, Geoffo. But nice. I gotta say, I've enjoyed this through and through. I'm sad to see it's coming to an end because I've liked the story the whole time. They've introduced us to a lot of different characters with a lot of different motivations and stuff. Their own stuff going on. This issue we got, even in issue 26, they introduced us to kind of a new character. Not quite this guy who's just I don't know if he's been in the background before or not, but he's this guy right here. He's just like he kind of works for the gangsters, but he works in the warehouse. So he's a warehouse guy, and they keep skipping around years too, because there's the two different gangster gangs are in different years, but they also travel through time to earn their money and do certain tasks. But like I said, this is so this particular issue opens up with this warehouse guy, and the boss has just died, and he's like, I think I'm getting a promotion here. I'm finally getting out of the warehouse. But then the gangster's son, the head gangster's son comes in and goes, I'm taking over this operation. You're staying in the warehouse where you belong. And you just feel disappointed for this guy. Then it's like 15 years later, the scene shifts forward and the guy is still working in the warehouse. And boss's son is still the boss. And it's just like, oh, man. And that's just like the beginning. That's just sort of a little slice of life at the beginning of the story in this one that I liked. But Time Before Time, good book that not a lot of people are reading. I wonder what the sales on something like that are. I can't imagine what an indie Image book on issue 26 that's not a superhero book and doesn't have a big name behind it is selling.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows nowadays.
Yeah. I was just thinking this afternoon. I was like getting the I don't know if you guys remember this. God, must be a decade ago now. There was a time for a year or two after Saga, once again, maybe the couple years after Saga, where Image #1s were the hottest thing in the world. Didn't matter what it was. People were just, all the speculators and all the flippers were buying up image number ones. And a couple of them here and there got hot. I'm trying to think of the last one to get hot. Ooh, what was that book? It's probably 6, 8 years ago. I can't even remember the name of it. It was by a
Deadly
hot
Class?
writer and a hot artist. I
Was
only bought a
Deadly
couple of
Class?
issues.
That was the only thing that seemed that was like
What was that?
big. Deadly Class?
Deadly Class really wasn't even that hot.
What?
I don't even think Paper Girls. I don't think people were flipping Paper Girls number ones. I mean, Paper Girls number ones did well. I'm not saying it didn't do well, but I think I don't think the flippers were still around when Paper Girls number one. No shade to Paper Girls number one. I'm sure it was one of their better sellers. But there was a time where it was like, if you put out an image number one, flippers were buying that thing like crazy, and books would get hot for a moment and then disappear. I don't think any of them stayed hot. Black Science. See, Black Science, I don't think was hot. There was a problem with issue number 2's distribution or something. But it was a good book. But I don't know if anyone was flipped. You're right. Black Science may have got flipped a little. Now that I remember back, Black Science number 1 did get flipped a little, but then everybody was off it real quickly. But you're right. Black Science, I think was one of the last ones to get at least a little warm, if not hot. Because I bought Black Science number 1, but then I couldn't get number 2 because it got shorted everywhere for some reason. That's probably because Black Science number 1 was hot and everyone bought it up and bought up number 2s where they could get it. So that may be one of them. But the one I'm thinking, oh, God, it had movie. They kept having movie covers. I bought number 1 and sold it like 6 months later for $40 or something. You used to be able to do that with image. You could do that in 2 weeks too, but it was a sci-fi one that took place on a foreign planet. Really detailed. I finally read the thing. It was okay. Stray Dogs. That one was. I'm not sure if Stray Dogs got it. Most recently, Boom Books had flippers chasing them for a year or so. That must have been the Stray Dogs era then. You're right, because there were some Boom Books being chased because of what was that teenage Girl Scout book that Boom had that made everything hot? 7 to Eternity. That's the book I'm thinking of. 7 to Eternity was the last book I remember getting really hot, where I sold my issue number 1 a couple months later for, I don't remember if it was $40 or $60. I don't know if like Black Science and the Boom Books reached that sort of past $50 threshold. The 7 to Eternity is the last one I have a memory of doing that with. I can't even remember what year it came out, but yeah, I do remember people chasing Stray Dogs number 1 when it first came out. But yeah, there was a time where Something's Killing the Children set off the Boom Boom. Yes, those were hot and stayed hot for a long time. And what was the Animosity? What was the Boom one with the Girl Scouts, the teenage one, Something Scouts? That one was also hot. That may have been, I don't remember if that was before or after Something's Killing the Children. But yeah, there was a boom with number 1s for, matter of fact, who was it? There was somebody on YouTube I was watching regularly. Oh, it was the guy in Vegas. Joker's Comics or something. I can't remember his name. He was buying all of those Something's Killing the Children books for a long time. But yeah, it seems like nostalgia now when an Image would put out a book and it would get hot. Now, no one is getting them. That led right into, this is part of the Massive Verse, the Radiant Black Rogue Sun universe. And this we actually get some superhero fighting in it, or supervillain fighting, I'm not sure. But it's mostly a police procedural. with this No One is the name of the. I guess he's an anti-hero. There's a good shot of him. There's his head with the light shining. I think he may be superpowered or have a superpowered armor, but I'm not 100% sure. Bob sold graded something for $1,000, I believe. Yeah. Whew. Some of those went. My LCS was telling me that I think it was. There's a guy there who buys everything. He buys every comic that comes out every month. He's like keeping the store afloat. And I think one of those Something to Killing the Children's that he bought was worth like 10 grand. And he sold it. He's like, I'll sell this one. Some crazy price for it. But no one's been good. Police Procedural, who's doing this one? It's Kyle Higgins, who's also the writer on Radiant Black. Brian Buccellato, who's brother to Steve Buccellato, that we know. Do you know Steve Buccellato?
Only through the industry. Like, I don't think we ever
Okay.
had like conversations that I recall off the top of my head. I'm sure I ran into him at cons or at Marvel.
Right. I don't remember if he was a bullpenner right before me or not, but he was a colorist when I got there. And he would be in the office all the time, getting coloring work and talking to people. He's good friends with Marie Javins, so he was always hanging out with her in her office.
I want to say yes. I did like talk face to face with him as like one of those people that would come in every once in a while.
Right. If you were there in the 90s, you probably met him at some time. But his brother,
I'm almost sure of it.
His brother went to the Italian spelling of his pronunciation of his name, Buccellato. So the artist is Geraldo Borges. Colorist is Mark Eglert. And Hassan Atsami Elhau is the letterer. He's lettering a lot of stuff. Production artist is Wesley Griffith. But yeah, it's been a good book. Issue 5, pardon me, we're up to. Not the greatest cover. I hate these giant logo covers. I really don't like them. They're kind of useless to me.
Yeah.
It's like, why bother having a cover if you're just going to do that?
I find those only useful in a weird way if you're trying to look for books on Comixology and you're trying to figure out the name of a title.
Yeah,
because sometimes they'll show it. That's the only time I can accept that kind of cover. To go, oh, this is what I'm looking for, and then I would want a page that has an actual cover on it. But that's me.
Like, I hated it on The Wicked and the Divine. That's when, who was doing that one? McKelvey? I think he was the artist. Did these beautiful covers, and then they'd put this logo right down the middle of it. I'd be like, why? Why wreck the drawing? Oh, they need more files from me. Let me see what they want. I'll turn you this way and go over to my computer. The bloody minutes.
That you get for having your work email always open.
I tell you. And they got lettering corrections. I'm like, shouldn't you know? We've been doing this one for months.
Oh, please. Even after the book has seen print, I would get like, oh, we're doing a reprint. Would you mind changing these items?
The indicia. I wonder if anyone knows that in all their comics, Bad Idea puts a joke in the indicia. And I always wonder if anyone notices.
Is it even legal to put a joke in the indicia?
Yeah,
It depends
I think it
where
is
you
because
put
no
it.
one ever reads them.
But the whole point is that that thing is legalese because it's a periodical.
You got me.
And considering there is
These aren't
no,
periodicals. These are all one shots. All right. Bloody mess. It's a
I would
bloody mess.
imagine also what kind of joke they put in it.
The jokes are amusing. They
Okay.
just usually have something to do with the comic. Like in the Pirate Queen, they'd put a pirate joke. The sci-fi book, they'd put a sci-fi joke. I have to say, I like the jokes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, this is all lettered on the board. Four, 1. Period after at the house is a little faint. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bum, 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 bum.
Yes,
Ah.
folks, this is the excitement of
It-
production of comics.
It's hand lettered. That's why it's a little faint.
Mm.
Oh, David Lapham. Oh, wow, that's weird. The whole thing is somehow a smart object. I did not notice that before. I cannot even draw on it. Let's wonder if I double click on it, will something else open up? Oh, I have no idea what's going on. That is so weird. So I opened up the TIFF file. And for those who don't know what a smart object is in Photoshop, a smart object is when they take a file from someplace else, doesn't usually Illustrator, and embed it in the Photoshop document. And then if you double click on a smart object, it opens it up wherever, it'll open it up in the Illustrator file, and you change the Illustrator file and save it, and it updates it in the Photoshop file. Well, I've never seen this before. All the art and lettering was a smart object, and I double in the Photoshop file, and I double clicked it, and it opened another Photoshop file. I'm like, what? That's just weird. That shouldn't do that. That is just weird.
And for you folks playing at home, this is what we deal with on a daily basis. And the only reason why we don't go postal and get rid of the people around us is because we all live alone.
It is
Yeah,
crazy.
at least back in the newspaper, I would actually go up to the production people. Hey, can you add a caption there?
Huh.
And they would.
All right, I'm gonna have to steal another period. Oh, I can. Oh, geez, I just made 3 copies of something.
What I normally do is I'll take the layer, flatten the layer, and then it'll make it where you can edit it and make changes.
Yeah, I'm
'Cause
gonna
then
have to
it's
do
not,
that.
yeah, because then it would no longer be a smart object.
I don't know why it is to begin with. I have never seen that. I wonder where the other file is. I only got one file. How did it open itself? Weird, man. The weirdness of comic book production. Let's see. We made that period less dim. It is now just like the other period. And this is also when you're making changes to lettering in production, you don't have access to the digital fonts usually. So it's like you have to copy and paste individual letters.
Yep.
444, comma after no. So now I need to find a comma here. Oh, his commas are big. Comma, 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 chameleon. Whoop. Oh, she's made me make more corrections. I'm not doing this now. Screw it. I'll try again in a few minutes. Well, it's like, send me the final files. Here are the corrections after the final files are done.
Yeah,
just drives you bonkers.
Yeah.
Just drives you bonkers.
Toss off, client. We are too busy doing a live stream and measuring comic book letters.
Yes. Dreams of Things is the next hot book. You got it. Industrial Spying. Nice. I never looked at Bad Ideas Indicia, but Behemoth had jokes in their Indicia too. Ah. They don't send it back to the hand letterer? No. That would take too much time. Mm-hmm. Another thing, this week's Adventures in Art Supplies. This is why I stockpile art supplies. I ended up making, we'll show you I filled this whole sketchbook with textures, ink textures. Because I was looking at, have you ever seen Wilson True Grit Texture Supply?
I have.
And I've always kind of I was like, I need some textures for an Illustrator. Illustrator piece I'm working on. I was like, let me look up True Grit Texture Supply because I get ads for them all the time. And you can like buy textures for like $15-20. And I looked through their textures and went, I can make better textures than that. So then I remembered, here's the cover for it. I bought this a couple years ago. A visual journal, which this one has multimedia paper, and it's like 90-pound paper in it, really thick. And then I was like, you know what? I can finally use that for something. I'm going to make textures. So I grabbed that, and then I grabbed, where did I put I grabbed one of my bamboo brushes. I thought I moved out here. Where'd it go? And it's one of these bamboo, there it is. It fell down the crap. It's one of the, I may have had this since I was a freshman in college. This is one of those cheapo bamboo brushes that makes every college student never want to use a brush. Because it's so crappy. It like won't come to and hold a point. You see like Japanese and Chinese master calligraphers use them. But they, of course, have good bamboo brushes. When you're buying this for $4 at an art store and you're a student, it's not a good bamboo brush. And you try to use it, and it's like, if you're just starting out using brushes, this is not the one to use. Like I said, this will scare you from ever wanting to use a brush. But due to the fact that it won't come to a point, it's really good at making textures. You can, dip it in ink a little bit, get the sort of not even a dry brush technique, it's a wet brush technique, and just kind of make all sorts of different textures with it. Make swirls. Just whatever that is, foggy day. Oh, and this one if you look at this one right here, I dipped my ink. I brushed my paper with ink and then used it like this. I was drawing with the side of the piece of paper, and that's how I was able to get those lines.
Nice. Have you tried the trick that Larry Hama talked about using saran wrap and dipping it
Oh,
into ink and then
I tried paper with that. Which I also tried an orange.
okay. Yeah, because every
Oh,
now and then Larry would talk about what he learned from Wally Wood, what they would
right.
do in the studio to do textures and stuff like that. There
I
was
think
a
this
there
one
was
was dipping crumpled paper into ink.
oh, okay.
So and then 30 I did all of the front, and then I was like, you know what, this is thick paper, I can use the back too because it
Right.
holds up well to the ink. So I flipped it over, I scanned all the fronts in, flipped it over, did all the backs the next day and scanned all the backs in. So now I can use these in Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever.
Yeah. You
um
can even make brushes out of them
yeah,
and
those are
use
nice
it for
fun.
reoccurring patterns. Yeah, those are great.
But I was like, you know what, I can do better textures than
Hmm.
this stuff. And this and it was good that I had this. Like, this sketchbook has been lying around for 3, 4, 5 years, but it's like, hey, I found a use for it. All right.
And now you need to put an ad on a DC comic saying, "Send me $10 and you can get Jared's sketchbook of textures."
Yep.
Hmm. There's one that's just tipping the ink on the old. And when I did that, I had to cover up everything on my
Oh
desk.
yeah, yeah. I've done that because
Oh,
I've done uh when I learned to do space scenes. What I
right.
would use is a frisket, a wet one. Put that down first, so the stars would actually be the white of the paper. So I put that
Ah,
down and then ink over it,
oh,
and
liquid
then
brisket.
yeah, a liquid frisket
Right,
down, and then you do it with a toothbrush. So you got to cover everything anyway. You do it with a
right.
toothbrush, and then you go over it with the ink, and then rubber cement picker up, or you just go over the paper so the stars are actually the white of the paper. Then I scan that in, and I use that for all my star backgrounds.
Ah. I
I did a
know old time inkers used to use the toothbrush method too.
Yeah, but Harry
Where
Candelero
you dip
taught
your
me that
toothbrush
trick.
in wet and white paint and go
So it's
to
kind
make
of
a
the same
star
thing, but
field.
reverse. So this way
Right.
here, you're just using the white of the paper itself. So he taught me how to do that. Was Harry Candelero who used to ink like X Force and stuff like that. And
Ah,
his wife sat in front of me at Marvel,
Mary Mac.
Mary Mack. So I was talking to her, and then I was talking to a few inkers that would invite me to their place to show me things about inking. And that was one of the tricks that he showed me. But he tended to ink more with a pen and
Right.
not a brush, and I couldn't get the pen. I couldn't get it. It wasn't working well with me. And then later on, Rich Parada was teaching me how to do it with a brush, and that was so much easier for me
Yeah, I'm a brush guy
to ink.
too. I never took to a pen.
I tried it, but it just wasn't my thing.
Yep. Yep. Me too. I use a pen sometimes. I use a pen 5% of the time.
Mhm.
I've got like specific things I'll use a pen for, but
Yeah, I would use the for my sketch cards. I use a pen, but he was using a nib, like quote,
right. A dip
so
pen.
yeah, a dip pen. I have yet to even. I don't even think I have dip
One of
pens
these.
anymore.
This is a one that no one uses anymore called the Gillot 1950, I think it is. And this I use for making like very specific little tick marks.
Uh huh.
There's like one mark I make with this pen. When I need to make that mark, I grab this pen, dip it, and go. John Romita was the only one I met who ever heard of the Gillot 1950.
Wow. Okay.
Because I found some of them. I found one of them once, and it was the only one I ever found. Then I found like 20 years ago, found a store online that was selling them, so I bought a bunch of them. But yeah, not a common. Usually it's the Hunt 107, the Hunt
Right.
104, the Hunt 102 for lettering.
Mhm.
But the Gillot 1950 is not a common one. All right, I'm gonna try one more change. See if I have it in me. Let me go this way again. Let's see. Comma after no. Did I do that? I did that. Add a hyphen to non-disclosure. A hyphen. You guys read any good comics lately? What's
No.
been on your reading table?
Just the Batman. That was like the one thing I read this week. I have not started. I picked up where I got from a Kickstarter, uh, Spectreman Heroes, based on the '70s TV
Oh,
superhero shows.
cool.
And I thought it was going to be like a team up book, but what it is that there are various titles that were done back in the day. The TV shows were done back in the day, but Antarctic Press did a series of like one shots for each of the books or each of the
Uh-huh.
titles. And so, unlike the regular like kaiju stuff, these are more. I wasn't talking to you. I don't know why my phone started talking back to me.
Huh.
So, so, so I have not read it. I just got it from Kickstarter, and so far it looks good. I did a TikTok where I was just showing some of the artwork from it, and again, this is just the type of fun stuff that that were done in the '70s for Japanese superheroes. So I
Ah.
thought this was kind of cool um, to have and to check out. So that's on my pile to read, but this pile is getting bigger and bigger, so I have to do something about it. The Batman, like I mentioned earlier today, the Batman that I read is I'm trying to see if I could like block out an hour in the morning before I turn on my computer, before I do any work. I just have a cup of coffee and read a comic book and just enjoy it. I had set an hour aside for that, and I read the book in like 20 minutes. So I spent the rest of the time just. That's why I started reading the ads because I was outside and that was the only book I had on me. So I'm going to try to attempt though getting a couple of books with me, going to the park, and reading some comics. So this way here, no matter how my day goes, at least I started my day off with reading a comic book.
Anything in your pile to be read, Paolo?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff on my pile to be read. The thing I didn't really know that I should take out of the pile, Milo Manara's Caravaggio and Enki Bilal's Bugs, because they've been sitting there for a couple of years now, and I really got to give them a read. I haven't read Enki Bilal in a while. These are sort of new stuff. Bilal was more famous 30 years ago with stuff that actually came out in heavy metal in the US. So, yeah. The guy's what? He must be in his late 70s. So, you also need to buy some of the new Mercenary. They hadn't been they're old, but they hadn't been published in Portugal yet. The Mercenary, a science fantasy comic.
Final version 17 PDF. Yes. Gillot nibs. Yes. Gillot 1950 nibs. Nice. Was that part of me where John embraces senility? Never mind. He's still lucid. Sing like Bilal. Let's see another comic. Oh, here's another massive verse comic. Rogue Sun. I gotta say, I haven't liked this storyline in Rogue Sun. Not that it's been bad, but it's a storyline where Rogue Sun, his body has been taken over by one of the older Rogue Sons who are still alive in the Sunstone. And it's just kind of like all stories like that have to end the same. It's like it's like his body's taken over. He's got to figure out how to get his body back. Then he gets his body back. It's like they're all kind of, and I'm just kind of like, just put him back in his body and let's see him. Something,
Mhm.
But they're going through a lot of the backstory, a lot of this and that. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a story that I don't particularly like because I find them all the same. Body snatching stories or whatever. It's like, you snatch the hero's body, he's in trouble, then he gets his body back and everything's back to normal. It's like, can we just get back to normal then? Hurry it up. So that story's been going on for a good 3 issues or so now. So I'm just kind of like, Wait, which verse? Should he sing? Sing for the day, sing for the moment. Visual Journey. What's your story? I have to order another one of these now to have sitting around because it was a really good book for making textures in. Want to do a read, rip, and slab? Let's see what I got set up.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Present. Share screen. Where is... Oh, hold on. I think No, it's right there. There it is. 1993, April Indies, which I haven't read one of them.
Dinosaurs for Hire by Malibu.
Elementals by Kamiko. The Elementals far past its prime. And the Twilight Zone Computer. I don't know why it's called the Twilight Zone Computer,
First
but it is.
ever all computer issue.
Ooh, look at that. That's got to be worth $1 million.
From Now Comics.
Oh, part of the Massive Verse, pardon me. Massive Verse is the Image sub-universe with Rogue Sun, Black. What's his name? There's like 5 or 6 books now that Image No One is one of the Massive Verse. Radiant Black. Dead Lucky is another one that I don't buy. All Dolphin Paulo Hallows headset.
Okay, so I'm going to read Dinosaurs for Hire, rip Elementals, and slab the Twilight Zone.
Because it's the first all-computer issue.
Yes, I'm going to sell it. For plenty of dollars, and then I too will buy the entire collection of Mr. X.
1993. Honestly, I don't think that is the first all-computer issue. Batman might have beaten that by a year or two.
Yeah, 1989 or 1998. No.
And then there was a Iron Man one as well.
Shatter.
In Shatter.
Yeah. So I'm going to rip the Twilight Zone because it lied to us. It's not the first all-computer.
You're not believing its claim?
My comics are lying to me.
That dinosaur is tripping over that UPC box too.
Uh-huh. I would read Elementals because I don't think I ever read that book.
That's not a good one to read.
I've heard about it. I know like Tony Daniels' first set of
Willingham
books
did Elementals.
Came from that. Yeah, I think I would slab Dinosaurs for Hire, read Elementals, and then rip Twilight Zone.
I will Dolphin.
Is going to rip Dino, slab Elementals. I got to read the Twilight Zone book. Yeah. First computer comic. Yeah. Got to read that.
First computer lies.
Shatter has got to be before that stuff. Now, yeah, I think Shatter was from the 80s, even the late 80s.
Yeah, I think Shatter's, and I forgot what was the name of the Batman one.
Read Zone, rip Elements, and slab Dino.
Yeah, digital justice. That's right.
Even though the
Yeah.
Twilight Zone is frame worthy, I read it. Slab elementals and rift dinosaurs.
Hmm. I'm going to dolphin the word zone in the Twilight Zone.
The Twilight Dolphin.
Yes. It will be another lie because there will be no dolphin inside.
To be fair, they're only claiming that it's the first ever all computer issue of the Twilight Zone. Could be.
You know what? Yes, that's true. But it just maybe it is my fault the way I'm reading it, but it makes it sound like it's the first ever all computer issue ever. Because it's almost up there with new and improve. You can't have it both, but you're allowed to lie
Digital
on comic book
justice
covers
is
from
so
what I
good.
understand.
Yeah.
Things like World's Greatest Comic Magazine. By whose standards?
Slab Zone, Reed Elementals, Rip Dinosaur, Dolphin the Elementals blue guy, Flamingos coming out of the dinosaur girl's cleavage.
Hmm.
I would
One
definitely
standing on each
dinosaur.
foot.
I mean, I would dolphin one of the dinosaurs. Probably the one that's smoking a cigar because he's smoking on a cover, so that has to be for a dolphin. And I would put the flamingos in the CGI book. Let it be part of the. Let them be also computer generated.
I'm gonna put the flamingos in whatever head thingy the villainous looking guy has on in the Elementals cover. They would be very bewildered flamingos. I mean, I don't understand that. I'm trying very hard to understand that
What he's wearing?
the anatomy. It makes absolutely no sense.
Is he grabbing that flying guy? His
Yeah,
arm in
but
front of him?
where's the rest of the body? I mean,
I think he's got a high front collar on. I'm ripping the elementals. I just decided. I'm ripping the
you know,
elementals,
we should.
slabbing the first computer Twilight Zone, and reading Dinosaurs for Hire.
We gotta get the guy from X Force #4 to color that Elementals cover, see if it makes more sense.
I'm putting my flamingos right on top of that dinosaur's head in front of the S. Gonna be a couple of flamingos standing there chatting.
Mm.
And what could I possibly dolphin? We're gonna.
Tempted to dolphin the dinosaur, the CGI dinosaur to a
I think I'm gonna
CGI.
have to make that CGI dinosaur a CGI dolphin. What other choice is there? It seems too obvious. Man, that
chicken
Twilight
cover.
Zone cover is rough.
That's a chicken cover on Dinosaurs for Hire, isn't it?
The beauty of it, Paolo. Brian
Oh,
Murray has the
could
magic
be.
touch.
You got to touch.
The beauty is the incomprehensibility.
It's funny how we're talking so much about Malibu tonight, and there's a Malibu cover,
Yeah.
and it's Dinosaur for Hire. You know what's funny? I have one of the retail posters of Dinosaur for Hire on sale on my eBay page.
Wow.
What a blast from the
Dolphin the
past.
cigar, the dino is smoking. Elementals. I was not reading any of these indies in 1993.
Yeah, probably no one was.
I was reading Dinosaurs for Hire.
Okay. I remember Dinosaurs for Hire being fairly popular.
Yeah.
I remember
That's like the I would say that's like the tail end of the Ninja Turtles craze where everyone had something. And so they had Dinosaurs for Hire. It was dinosaurs with guns.
Also, wasn't that Dinosaurs puppet show famous back there though on TV?
I don't think so. We didn't get that dinosaur. Did we get it? I don't remember when we got. I never watched it. I don't remember being. It only was around for a couple of seasons.
Yeah, it was only a few seasons, and popular is like, yeah,
I
the
think it was
people watched
middling.
it, they enjoyed it, but they end up canceling it, and it had a terrible ending. I mean, a tragic ending where they're like, the end of the world is here. The asteroid is coming to get them, and they kind of knew about it, and it really ended on a downer. So it was
wow.
like, yeah.
I remember was that one of the shows that was popular in Britain, and they tried to bring it over here?
I always thought it
Or
was
am
a
I thinking
show
of
here
another
already.
puppet one, Spitting Image?
Yeah, that was a different one altogether.
No, I don't
Dinosaurs
remember.
themselves were. I want to
No,
say it was
that
like.
thing. That thing was too high production
Dinosaurs
to
to
have a
Come
British
started in 91.
original.
91. At least you can tell what's going on in Dinosaurs for Hire. Those other two, rip. 99 was the first season of the show. Went 4 seasons, according to the internet. Okay, must have been more popular than I thought. 4 seasons. That's not bad. Just missed syndication, though.
It was on ABC.
That's where the real money was in 1991.
Oh, yeah.
Not so much anymore. Everybody's getting ripped off by streaming. I'm the baby, gotta love me.
Yeah,
that was the catchphrase.
Also, you're not mommy.
Yep. Dinosaurs for hire.
Dinosaurs for Hire.
That's a title they could bring back. Dinosaurs for Hire. No, something fun with a catchy title, and you don't need it's not continuity heavy.
I wonder if that went over to Marvel. That was a Malibu title.
But it was pre-Ultraverse, so.
Oh yeah, so.
Gotta have a
we have to
catchphrase.
speak to Tom Madsen if he wants to reprint them.
I love
His
that
name's
shit
on
for
the
like
cover.
3 episodes. Then I went outside.
I finished smoking my doobie. Then it wasn't fun anymore.
Another comic I got this week. Ice Cream Man. What issue number is this? 36 it's up to. Wow.
Damn.
Another done in one story. These are all done in one stories that don't necessarily connect, but they're horror stories, which I like. I remember at the beginning they tried to do this like continuing continuity thing with the Ice Cream Man and this cowboy, but I think they completely gave that up a couple of years ago. So now we just get these cool done in one stories. This is about a guy who's a whaler. Well, I think his daughter got eaten by a whale, so now he's out looking for her.
That's physically impossible.
Really? What was that?
That's physically impossible. Those whales don't have a big esophagus.
I know.
You can.
Well, don't worry. He ends up going inside a whale too, and it's bigger on the inside than the outside.
Oh, it's Time Lord technology.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a TARDIS whale.
So all sorts of horror stuff happens inside the whale, and as he looks for his daughter, and horrible things happen. But good stuff. I mean, Ice Cream Man is always good. Don't want to spoil it for you by giving you away too much of the plot. But who's this? Maxwell Prince and Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo. The art by Martin Morazzo. Chris O'Halloran is the colors. Lettering by good old Neon. Okay. But I don't think there's been an issue of this out in a couple months. But Ice Cream Man is a good read month after month. So I got on it late. This is one of those books I always meant to try out and just didn't. And then I finally read, I think it was on Hoopla, I read the digital version of the first trade and said, I'm just going to put that on my pull list. I think it was around issue 17 I started picking it up. So don't be afraid to start picking things up at issue 17. That's my advice for tonight. People are always like, I got to start at 1. No, you don't. Pretty damn impressive that series has been going that long. Smoking, I was 8 when that premiered. I mean, I went outside to play with sticks or something instead. That That's what happened to me in the Dukes of Hazzard. I liked the first season Dukes of Hazzard was on. I enjoyed it. Second season was on. I would rather go out and play.
Mhm.
Gave up on the
Oh,
Dukes of Hazzard. I'm like, yeah,
oh,
same thing as last season. I'm out of
we played Dukes of Hazzard, even though we were like 4 and we didn't have a car to,
here.
but we had things that we tried to jump over,
Ah.
and it was dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Depending on the toy you had, we didn't have the Evil Knievel cycle. We had I would say like a knockoff one that was with chips, so they were smaller, and they would be like
Ah.
they would kind of be on your watch. It wouldn't be an actual working watch. You just put it on your wrist, and then you
Mhm.
pulled on the string, and it's supposed to jump off your watch and go across. It's like it was not Evil Knievel.
I never liked that Evil Knievel toy.
Mhm.
Um, because it was like only leaning up against it like had to lean up against the gear, and if you revved it too hard, it would fall over.
Uh-huh.
There was another one I liked called Supersonic Tower. Which motorcycles were smaller, but there was like an air pump, and you'd build up air pressure, and then
Oh
let it
wow. Okay.
go, and it would fly. It was like, ooh, air pressure was much more reliable than you
Yeah.
turning that handle.
I tended to like the one with the plastic handle, so you would pull it to
Oh,
rev it.
those
Matter of
were
fact,
SSP,
they
Supersonic Power. Those were
they,
pretty cool.
they kept making them. Even Toy Biz made it for like
Ah, you'd put the
Ghost Rider.
little
So
geared
it would have a
the geared
let's see if I
ribbon
remember.
down in there, and then
So there'll
yank
be a
it and spin the
ribbon
wheel.
that would go here,
Right.
and it would have teeth on it, and then you
Mhm.
would put it in there and then pull on it, and then it will rev it, and it would go. So it's like, and the one that I had for this one had like a skull head, and then
Ah,
it glowed in the dark too. So the wheels glow, not the wheels, but
cool.
the fire on the side, his head, and then the fire on the side as well. They glow. So it was like so that technology kept going into the and at least into the 90s. I don't know if they're still doing that type of thing.
Dukes of Hazzard was great. It inspired much mischief in our neighborhood, and all of us like Daisy. Yeah. Ah, Daisy Duke.
Daisy Dukes.
Who didn't like that? Let's see another comic I got this week. This is one of the damaged ones from like 3 weeks ago, which is still a little damaged. This copy, man, they can't get it right. That diamond. Junk Rabbit. This is the 5th and final issue, and I gotta say, I found it a little disappointing.
Really?
There was too much because the first 4 issues were sort of mysterious, and this issue we get a lot of explanation. All they wrapped up all, and there was a whole lot of plot to wrap. Because we got pages of people talking to each other, explaining exactly what happened in the beginning. Then there was some action at the end, of course, and then it did that thing where at the end of issue 4, the junk rabbit was captured by this giant robot and brought back to the villain. Then in this issue, it flashes back to before that happened, and you find out what you think happened, what didn't really happen. It wasn't the minion in the giant robot. The good guy took it over, and it was all a plot to bring her. The junk rabbit really wasn't captured. She was just pretending she was captured. It was like, this is way too much plot for a last issue.
Mm-hmm.
There's more plot in this issue than the other 4 combined. Like, it wasn't a terrible ending. It just seemed like a clumsy ending to me.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like we have a plan to a certain point. It's like, oh, we have to explain this all at the end. It's like, oh, we don't have one more issue to go.
I think it was planned to be 5 issues from the beginning, but still, they crammed an awful lot of. This is what really was happening in the 5th issue.
Right.
A little too much for my taste. It inspired bike hide and seek in my neighborhood. Ah. The Duke boys. No, keep bringing me back to comics. Exposition, yes. Lots of explaining. Exposition in the right places is fine. The last issue might not be the right place. Plot, give me give me poetry. You must be a happy camper, AFPC. The end of a story shouldn't be as plot heavy as that end of that story was, at least to my taste. A story at the end where you have to explain everything that happened at the beginning of the story? Whew. A little rough. A little rough.
Somebody was complaining. Oh, yeah. A friend of mine did an interview with a regular reader. It's a friend of his on his podcast, and the guy being interviewed was younger. He hated he hated comics with too much exposition because he had to read too much.
And he was a regular reader. He read books.
Well, he started reading comics and post Onslaught. He liked J. Michael Straczynski's Spider-Man.
Speaking of having to read too much, got the latest issue of Spawn, and it featured one of these Todd McFarlane explanation pages. I skipped right over it as normal. I don't even miss them. It's like, I don't know what they're there for. I assume that it says here it's by Rory Raconville, Todd McFarlane additional script. I gotta believe that's the additional script.
Yeah,
that's what Todd McFarlane writes in this. But
he writes the TV captions.
He writes the TV captions, and I just never read them.
That's Stanley plotting so that so that the artist can know what he's supposed to draw next issue.
I just skip right over them all the time and don't miss a thing.
One of these days, Todd is going to write an entire issue of Spawn that's nothing but those TV images.
He's too busy selling toys. I see him on Instagram selling toys all the time. He's got he's got some new Todd McFarlane Target exclusives. Still only $2.99. Which is why I'm still buying it. With Sleepy Gore and AFPC in the room, you guys must know E.M. Forrester, The Machine Stops. Just read that short story the other day. Really good. Okay. I don't think I've ever read E.M. Forrester. But I spent a lot of years reading nothing but nonfiction, so. I read some of Forrester's novels, but not his short stories. Ooh, definitely excellent, prescient story. Very early sci-fi. Nice. Yep, with them in the room, they did read E.M. Forrester's short story. You were right.
Yep. They were reading it. I wasn't. I was the sci-fi stuff I was reading was Star Trek and Star Wars and some not Final Fantasy. Forgotten Realms, I think, was the overall arching title. They were like based on some of the D&D stuff. I read some of those books.
I read a lot of Robert Heinlein in my youth. He was my go-to sci-fi guy. So I didn't.
I read a lot of.
I recommend
Two
Cheers for Democracy. On the Fossils show or Hotel Orloff, I don't remember. Paolo showed off nice science fiction books.
Yeah, they're still here. I haven't put them away. Actually, I want your opinion on this Mickey Spillane cover.
Let's see.
because Gratu said this looked like it was painted by a high school student.
I cannot, it's not high resolution enough for me to get a good look at it, but that black outline around that guy does not fill me with confidence.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so if I were to tell you that this is a commercial illustrative work by one of Portugal's most prominent painters of the 20th century, and he has streets and schools named after him.
Wow. I don't think the guy who did the graphic design on that cover cared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really can't see it to judge it.
Mm.
But I can judge the graphic design does not thrill me. That the painting doesn't really fit with the composition of the design. But who knows whose that fault that is. Starship Troopers, Stranger in a Strange Land, Door into Summer. I'm pretty sure I read all of those. I don't recognize Door into Summer. Lazarus Long was my favorite of the Heinlein stuff. So I knew exactly where Wolverine came from, right down to the bub. Methuselah's Children, that was a good one. Famous Italian artist, right? Yeah. Knowing Gratu, he was bothered by the naked butt. Yep, that's what he meant. Oh, hell, give me the heavy black outline. Oh, I like heavy black outline, just not necessarily in that type of painting, but I really couldn't see it.
Or here's something that's also comic book adjacent.
Right.
The novelization
of Darkman. I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, and I didn't even know it was a movie when I bought this.
Oh no!
I only saw. Yeah, the cover looked interesting. Darkman, and I was like 10, so yeah, let's read this. I only found out it was a movie later.
Sam Raimi directed, and it's the main actor is Liam Neeson.
Okay, I've heard read the Foundation trilogy by Asimov, and it felt really dated. I always meant to read that, but I was warned away from it many times. Methuselah's Children, I think, is an inspiration for Spiri Druna books.
For Serpieri.
Sam Raimi movie, Darkman. Yeah, I remember everyone liking Darkman. Amateurs, enthusiasts, novices, and the confidently clueless. This is where you'll find true and lasting aesthetic experience.
Mm-hmm. Darkman is a lot of fun because it's kind of it's a pulpy story. So this guy gets caught up in an explosion, and it burns his skin, and he makes it where he can't feel anymore. And so he doesn't feel pain. And so without the ability to feel, he slowly starts going crazy, because that was like kind of the premise. So, and because his skin's burnt, he becomes like an expert on making a synthetic skin, but it doesn't last long. So what he does, he uses the extra skin to make disguises. So he pretends to be other people while he's trying to track down why he was killed. And I don't know if his power is if he's super strong, or is it just because he doesn't know how to stop, so he's powerful in that way. But it was years since I watched it.
Wasn't the actor from L.A. Law on Darkman?
Yes, he's the one of the actors from L.A. Law ends up being the villain. And on L.A. Law, I think he played like a special needs person. So it was weird to see him as the villain in this show. And there was a couple of comic books Marvel put out.
Mm-hmm. Another comic I got this week, once again, I think the last issue, this is issue 5 of volume 3 of Howard Chaykin's Hey Kid Comics, came in damaged a couple weeks ago. And they sent this in, another damage. This one also damaged a bit in the corner, but you know. My Hey Kids Comics volume 3, number 5 will never be a 9.8 at CGC now. But this one tackles the 1983. So there's a lot of 1983 in this one. And we got some John Byrne. We got some Jim Shooter. We got some Howard Chaykin. By the way, I love the way Howard Chaykin describes himself. Where is he? He's he's Noah Gitlin. In comics, out of comics, and back in again. But will never be any good at comics. And they even have, let's see.
Does he look like Dominic Fortune?
Yeah. Where is his?
Of course he does.
Where is his American flag knockoff? Hold on, it's in here somewhere. Oh, and they have the Turtles guys in here. They have everybody rejecting the Turtles guys and then
Uh-huh.
going on to make millions. There's the hold on. There's some of the fake Turtles covers.
Mm-hmm.
What are they called? Aardvark?
Yeah, they're Durkee and Stendhal, antisocial post-Trochnik aardvarks.
Okay.
And he's got some of the hot. There's, where is it? Yankee Foxtrot. That's his own American flag. We've got a little lone wolf and cub since it's the 80s up there. I
Uh-huh.
think we've got he's going through there's a Watchmen one in here too. Oh, not there. I lost the Watchmen, but oh, there we go. So going through the popularity of the Watchmen, Jeanette Kahn. I believe this is all Black Kiss stuff. Jackanapes, top down. So this is him making fun of him making dirty comics. Up in here. I have to show you this one. It ends with the Turtles guys at the movie premiere of the Turtles. Only they're aardvarks in this story.
Uh-huh.
So it was a good
that
issue.
Makes sense. That way he's making fun of Dave Sim as well.
Yeah.
Imagine it was Dave Sim creating the Turtles.
And of course, all the old timers can't believe that stuff is, making them $1 million. They're like, holy cow. But it's been a good series. Of course, I still want to see the one with all the names in it. You are correct, Ramos. Larry Drake was the actor that played the bad guy, Robert Durant. Okay. Yeah, I went through a spat of collecting movie adaptations. All I remember about the Marvel adaptation is Teixeira Inks. 83 was an important year for the indies. Yep. Reuben Flagg. What a character. Remains one of my favorite comics. I'm going to have to reread that. I haven't read it since it came out because the end was such a disappointment. I really, really do not like this digital looking Chaykin. I can understand that. He does look a lot. He also does all the panels individually and puts them together in Photoshop. Black Kiss. I think it came out in 87, right? I think I just might give it a try again, Jared. I'm really enjoying Hey Kids. That's good. I'm enjoying it too. It's just fun. Like it's one more issue left. And then volume 3 is the last volume, I think. But pretty good stuff with Howard Chaykin telling us the miserable history of comics. And we're going to have to re-edit and put all the names in and put it in chronological order. Like, what is the name of that Godfather, the chronological cut or something like that? Did you ever see that? They did it for TV in like the 80s. They took the first 2 Godfather movies, re-edited it so it doesn't switch time frames. It starts at the beginning and goes right through it's called like the chronological cut or something like that. I don't think anyone ever watches it.
Doesn't make any sense.
To me, I watched The Godfather. It was fine, and then I moved on. I don't go back to it. For me, it's like it's one of those movies that people are like, "Oh, this is fantastic," and you gotta see it all these different cuts, and I'm like, That's not for me.
What do you got there?
It's a fairly
Mario
recent edition
Puzo.
of.
Oh, the book.
Yeah, I saw this. Well, might as well read it. Might as
Yeah.
well buy it and read it. And I bought the DVD set at the same time. So I read this before the movie, and it makes the movie better if you read the book first.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the movie. I just haven't watched it in years and years, and might not. On Dave Sims' channel, he's been doing interviews with Eastman. They are interesting. Yeah, I haven't checked. I've seen them go by, and I just kind of haven't watched them. I don't know why. I love the Black Kiss parody in She-Hulk 50. My first encounter was shaking. I didn't know that existed. I've seen it, Jared. I wish I had it. Ah. Oh, yeah, Gort. Sounds like it might be interesting. There are 13 or so interviews. Godfather 2, I can rewatch all the time. Excellent story. Yeah, I've never been that into them that I can rewatch them, but I enjoyed them when I saw them. You know what I can rewatch all the time? The greatest movie of all time, Smokey and the Bandit.
Footloose?
Smokey and the Bandit.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one.
What was the name of the sheriff? Buford T.
Buford
Justice.
T. Justice.
I'm Sheriff Buford T. Justice.
Give me a Dr. Pepper and a Diablo sandwich.
Dad, I have not seen that movie in decades.
I haven't seen it I watched a couple. I decided sometime about 10 years ago that it was the greatest movie of all time.
Okay.
Because whenever you see these greatest movies of all time lists, there's always the same movies on them, and they're usually downers, like Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. As good as they are, they're downers.
Or Apocalypse Now.
You know, all the only like happy one on the list is like the Wizard of Oz. I never even want to watch that one anyway. But it's like, I was like, you know what? The movie that I want to watch right now all the time is Smokey. Put Smokey and the Bandit on, you're having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather watch Smokey. If you give me a choice between watching Apocalypse Now and Smokey and the Bandit, I'm taking Smokey and the Bandit. I think Smokey and the Bandit over a lot of those movies that are supposedly the best movies of all time. I'm like, well, to me, that makes Smokey and the Bandit the best movie of all time.
Right.
Yeah, the first Ghostbusters movie should also be in a list of the best movies of all time.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Blazing Saddles and Airplane. What else?
Superman. I still enjoy Superman.
Sure.
To be fair, that's really all anyone is seeking from the Godfather films, chronology. Smokey and the Bandit is sexy, except for the sheriff and his son. Miller's Crossing for me, just upgraded the Criterion Blu-ray. Yeah, Miller's Crossing is good. That's where I first noticed the Coen brothers without even noticing they were the Coen brothers. I just liked that movie, I remember. Excellent film, CK. Yeah. Apocalypse Now is another movie I can rewatch. Smokey and the Bandit. I only watched Apocalypse Now once. I was never a big fan of it, but I loved that scene with, like, in the cave with, what was it? Was it Brando, like, pouring the ladle of water over himself? I don't know, for some reason I always think of that scene, but I think the scene is in my mind now is different than the one that's on film. Mm-hmm. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is the greatest of all time. Sorry, there you go. I saw that Saturday morning, Sleepy.
A movie that I never get.
So good. Top Secret, yeah. Deja Vu, have we met before? Harley Davidson, Marlboro Man, and Roadhouse for me.
One movie that I always rewatch when it's on TV, Hudson Hawk.
Ah, okay. That's a good
I never
one.
get tired of it. Yeah.
That one was one of those that was a huge flop, but it was better than that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Bunch saying at the time it was a live-action Lupin the Third movie. Well, if you didn't know if you didn't know Lupin the
Third, yeah,
you wouldn't get that reference. But luckily, Bunch lent everyone Lupin the Third movies, so they'd get his reference. The documentary about Apocalypse Now is way better than the actual movie. The older I get, the less I like dark movies. I love them in my 20s. I'll probably agree with you there. I was probably the same way. I used to like dark movies a lot more. Hudson Hawk is a fantastic art heist movie. I can rewatch old war movies as well. Murphy's War being one. Okay. I'd like to put on sometimes a war movie, A Bridge Too Far. That's one of those movies that you can work to. You put on A Bridge Too Far, it's going to be there for the next 3 hours. Watch your favorite parts, not pay attention to the other parts.
Star Wars is good for that as well. As a pace movie, where it's like, oh, by the time it gets here, I should be done with these particular pages.
I rep Hudson Hawk so hard.
No, the best part about it in Hudson Hawk is when Danny Aiello comes back.
Bridge Too Far.
And he comes up with the most ridiculous explanations on why he didn't die.
I haven't seen that one in a long. I have it on Plex, but I haven't actually watched it. I'm going to watch that one. Hudson Hawk, A Bridge Too Far. Let's see. I think this is my last comic I got this week. Xeno issue 3. I don't know if this is going 4, 5, or 6 issues. This is a Oni Press anthology comic. And it's pretty. This issue had lots of people I've never heard of before. Like, I heard of people in the first 2 issues, but the 3rd issue we're getting to people I haven't heard of before. But they've done a decent job, and there's like 5 or 6 stories in it. So some of them are barely stories, but that's okay. They're like, something happens, and then something bad happens. And I'm like, well, that's not really a plot, but it was kind of cool. Someone like has an idea first, like, what if at the end of the story this happens? And that's pretty much all that happens in the story. There's about 2 out of the 6 that were like that. But they were short ones. But the rest of them were pretty cool. Like, there's a twist ending, but the twist ending is just, okay, what if these people crashed on a planet and there was no food and they ate a giant slug? But it turns out that the giant slug was another one of their crew members because the planet turns people into giant slugs. You're like,
dun, dun.
Okay, I'll go with that. Doesn't mean anything. It's not really a plot, but I enjoyed it. Some pretty pictures. Some fun stuff happened. The art and all of this has been terrific. The art and colors are just kind of bizarre and out there for a lot of it. Thomas Crown Affair 68 is an embarrassing distant second. My daughter, who's 21, commented it was well done for its time. 3 already? Feels like 2 just came out a month ago. A month ago. But what is it? Hey Kids Comics 6 is supposed to be out next week. It's taken them like 3 weeks to get in the replacements. So I'll be reading that one right away. I wonder how he's going to end the story. Just characters walking away going, oh, well, this sucks. How else can he end it?
Or something. Well, my comic's been canceled. Now what?
Oh, well, I didn't make $1 million off of this one.
Excuse me. But end with the image of Jack Kirby saying, "Kids, comics will break your heart."
Mm-hmm. Or a bunch of new guys saying, "Oh, comics broke me."
Speaking of which, I just saw on the Marvel Method Facebook group. Are you in that one, Paolo?
I don't think so.
That's Patrick Ford's group. It's mostly an anti-Stan Lee group. trying to. Well, it's anti-Stan Lee only because they're trying to set the record straight on history, which automatically makes you anti-Stan Lee because.
Yeah.
And if you're new, you can't. For some reason, it's set up where he has the group moderator has to allow people to comment, and he just doesn't. He just doesn't care to bother at all. So it's like I can't actually comment on the group, but I can read the posts. And one guy was saying something that he's got some new book he's been working on for the last 60 years. Has to do with things that happened in 1966, and it's about Martin Goodman and I don't know 2 other people, and he's got a whole bunch of new information that nobody's heard before. And I'm like, all right, can't wait till it comes out.
Yeah. Because what I really like to see is one about 1958, even if I have to write it myself.
There you go.
Yeah, I had gotten an invite to that group, and it was like, just looking at it, it's like, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm interested in the Marvel method, but it's like, it's just bashing Stan all day, and it's like.
Well, I understand that just because Stan has lied so much, you can't get.
Yeah, I get it, but it's like I don't want to join a group that's all they're talking about all day. Where it's like I just kind of want to learn more about comics.
I'm okay with the Stan bashing. I believe he deserves some of it. So I just I don't pay that much attention to it, especially since I can't join in. So it's like,
my friends here in Portugal have been at it all day in one of the Portuguese comics Facebook groups about Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, which is not usual. But somebody bought a book about Jack Kirby, and it's like their eyes were open and they had no idea.
Well, a lot of people don't have any idea. We need some Paulo penned comics history analysis.
Because ultimately, if you're not into comics history, why would you not believe Stan Lee?
Right. You've heard you heard it all this time. He's been the mouthpiece for comics. So why wouldn't you believe him? Not everybody's me who figured out at 10 years old that Stan Lee was bullshitting them. By reading Stan Lee's Origins of Marvel Comics and such things. I'm the exception rather than the rule, so I understand.
I need to know if there's any interviews, but interviews with Stan Goldberg.
Okay.
Because Goldberg was drawing Millie the model.
Right.
And I've seen mentions here and there that even Stan Goldberg was complaining, hey, when do I get a check for writing? Eventually he did write. Yeah. But by that time Stan was not writing anymore. He was passing everything to Roy Thomas. And obviously Roy Thomas was not interested in Millie the model.
Right.
Even though that was his first job.
He was interested in highlighting pages of Conan books. That kills me.
Yeah, that
It's like, really? Really? But we know his self-awareness level from that editorial.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing.
No, you'd think
very interesting to see what Goldberg said. Yeah.
Because nobody thinks about him in the Marvel Age of Comics, but he was there. He painted everything.
Right. He was
colored everything.
Colorist.
Yeah. So he was actually in the bullpen.
Who pays attention to colorists? That's what I'd say to Dave Sharp every now and then. Who Marvel bullpen? He was a letterer. I'd go, there goes a letterer thinking he's a human being again. Because I get treated so poorly. People forget they exist.
Millie the model is the you. Anytime anybody mentions Stan Lee creating the Marvel Universe, just show them a Millie the model from the same month as Fantastic Four.
Did you ever see a copy of that 1961 omnibus? I want to see what the price is on that now. I have not seen it. That's the one. I think it must be at least a year old now. Marvel made a omnibus of all the comics that were out with Fantastic Four #1 that month.
Yeah, I think I saw one.
No, I didn't see that.
But I remember when they announced it, we were talking about it. I was like, this has got a small market. But like, who's going to be buying this one?
Yeah. Millie the Model isn't so bad, and Millie the Model isn't good, but it's not so bad once you read Linda Carter, Student Nurse. No, there was another title called Kathy.
They're now 61, 62, and 63 omnibuses.
Dang.
And Sleepy hasn't bought any of them yet? That must, they're low down the priority list. I thought he would have found those on in-stock trades for $10 a piece by now.
But they had a title called Kathy, and it was an attempt at rebooting My Girl Pearl, because what a big success My Girl Pearl was. So it was even stupider than Millie the Model, on purpose.
I have 2 of them. 63 hasn't come out quite yet. I knew he had to have them. I haven't seen those in a video yet, though. Let me ask you this. Which one would you, if you could only have one of these, which one would you get? 61, 62, or 63? I think 61. I'd go 61 just out of historical. I think it's the biggest historical curiosity.
61 because everything else is monsters,
right?
And the westerns haven't been contaminated by the new superheroes yet.
So I think I'd like 61 just because it has the stuff I've never seen in it.
But they don't have a war title anymore. They still have they still have one of the romance titles. But they don't have war comics anymore.
All I buy on YouTube anymore. Wow. You buy a lot of stuff that you show. I think 63 would be the most interesting as the Marvel view is sort of developing. Yeah, that's sort of the choice you have. If you had to pick just one, do you want to see sort of a snapshot month of Marvel superheroes developing? Or do you want to see a snapshot month of what was going on when there was the first Marvel superhero book? I think I would like to see the first Marvel superhero book snapshots. It's like both of them are really just kind of a curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because a lot of the things that shape up the shared universe, they were not exclusive to the superhero books. Stan had them. And this is actually has to be a Stan idea, and I don't even think that Martin Goodman would think like that. But Patsy Walker and Millie the Model and Linda Carter, Student Nurse, they have cameos in each other's books. A couple of shared stories, and that was before the Fantastic Four squared off against the Hulk.
Luckily, I will see them all, as my excess means not making choices. I'm sure if I bought one of them, I'd be like, well, then I have to buy the other 2 eventually.
What would be interesting as an omnibus is the first month that we get all new #1s in 1968.
That could be interesting.
Because they still have all the other titles as well.
Right.
So Patsy Walker's
1963.
Although we could wait until 1970 because that's when they launched the new anthologies. And see, there's always something. There at that time that they're expanding, there's always something going on.
So do you think they're going with 61 as Fantastic Four #1? 62 is that Spider-Man #1? Or would they go with Amazing Fantasy 15 #1?
Probably Amazing Fantasy number 15, or I think Amazing Fantasy number 15, Journey into Mystery number 83, and Tales to Astonish number 35. I think all come out about the same month.
Okay, and I know in 63 must be the Avengers and the X-Men that came out in the same month.
Because they're in the same week as well. Yeah.
Right. I imagine they'll do that. Avengers and X-Men.
Insurgent Hulk's already canceled. Insurgent Furies already started by the time Avengers and the X-Men come along.
Hmm. Want to do another read, rip, and slab? Let's
Sure.
see what we got. Let's go with "1957." Westerns. Lash LaRue Western 64. Kid Slade Gunfighter number 8. And The Rider number 2. Lash LaRue.
Surprised how much they're covering the writer himself with those word balloons.
Oh yeah. He's crunched between there.
Yeah. It's like you got more than enough space above him, and then just enough space in front of the horse.
I'm guessing the horse sold the comic more than the writer.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, and
somebody's
you know what?
thinking.
I'm gonna read the writer. I want to find out what's going on in there. I'm going to slab Lash LaRue and rip Kid Slade Gunfighter because that cover's just ridiculous.
It
Oh,
is.
come on. He's got people and paraphernalia all around him.
It's like you could cut those things off and then replace it onto the page. Change. Don't like the main guy? You could change
Ooh,
his
you know what?
face with the other guy.
Color form.
We could
You
cut
color
that.
form it.
We could cut that off and paste it in one of the 1986 anniversary covers.
Yeah.
Because this is a Marvel comic.
That's an Ajax comic? I don't know that.
The writer, yeah.
I don't know
I
that.
would-
I'm trying to
I would
remember if
read
I've heard of
Lash
Ajax
LaRue.
before or not.
I would read Lash LaRue. I like that logo.
I like that cover in general. I think I'm
Yeah.
going to slab Lash LaRue.
Yeah.
And also, isn't Lash LaRue like a TV show or a movie?
Yeah.
I have no
So-
idea.
So
It's possible.
slabbing it crosses over with all the Lash LaRue fans out there.
Right.
That's
As
the
much
best cover. Let me see
the
through that
Lash
cover.
LaRue looks really good, but the writer, like that could have been a great cover. It wasn't covering up with the writing.
The letterer didn't ruin it. Or that tears it. I'm going to tear the writer. And I'm going to read Kid Slade Gunfighter because I have to know if they got Kid Slade. If that cover copy is true. Slab the Lash, read the kid, rip the writer. Westerns, bah! Oh, you're no fun.
I would slab Lash because it just looks so good.
Yeah.
I think even though I don't like the cover, the writer makes me want to read it. I need to know what's going on. It's just why would you cover that all? And unfortunately, that means Kid Slade will be slashed.
And Gore Vidal is reading the writer, ripping Lash LaRue, and slabbing Kid Slade.
Oh, come on. That's cover. So let me see, what do I dolphin?
I'm going to dolphin Lash himself. I want the dolphin whipping people off the panel. And as far as flamingos, I think I'm going to put the flamingos on the writer's cover. They're going to be standing there wondering, why is all this text in front of them?
Yeah.
They can be
I'm
up
going to
I'm going to put the flamingos up on the top of that yellow hill, right next to the underneath the Ajax logo.
Yeah, I'm going to dolphin Kid Slade.
You know what I'm going to do?
The flamingo. I'm going to put the flamingos also on the writer's cover.
They just will fit in so nicely.
I mean, the flamingos would be perplexed that the wolves aren't coming after them, apparently edible birds, and why are they all going after the horse and the humans?
I think the flamingos are really like the watcher. No one sees them unless he wants them to. Because they're only there to watch.
You know what I'm gonna dolphin Kid Slade gunfighter cover. Only just the hand holding the gun. It will be a fin holding that gun. A dolphin fin. You'll be like, what kind of crazy fish is it after Kid Slade? Let's see. Sleepy would slab the rider, read Kid Slade, and trash Lash. Comic recorder Lillian wants to know if you were a vampire. She thinks your name sounds like you should be. I think Lillian is on to something. Gore Vidal the vampire. I like that Lash LaRue cover.
It's a good cover. And like I said, I like that logo.
Yeah. Crowded up there with the comics code and that corner triangle.
Lash LaRue has a Dick Giordano cover.
Never trust someone named LaRue. Oh, it's Dick Giordano doing that cover, huh? Yeah, no wonder it looks good.
Stories inside of Maurice Whitman art.
We really want to know, though, is who's the letterer on the rider? The cover letterer. And why did he make those choices? Was he directed to?
Maybe. I
guess I'm drawn to the picture window cover. Yeah, I like the pic. As much as Paolo doesn't like the jumble of things around it, I kind of like that picture window cover. The jumble of things around it is a little weird. Wasn't LaRue a Hill Street Blues cop? I have never seen Hill Street Blues.
Jesus, who hasn't?
Me.
I've seen it, but I don't recognize it.
You are not a TV person.
Never bothered with it in the 80s. I didn't need to know about cops' personal lives. I wanted just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. Let's put that one away. That was fun, as always. I've only gotten slightly farther in my Mage reading. I think I only read about 2 issues this week of the original Mage in its original form. Hill Street Blues is a great show. David Simon. Yeah. A lot of people like it. It was just never my cup of tea to even check out. Neither have I. What the hell is a Hill Street Blues? Cop show from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really about
a hometown favorite over here.
It was one of those groundbreaking dramas because it wasn't just your ordinary cop show, just the facts, ma'am, that I like. Hill Street Blues intro music, man. Yeah, it had a good intro. Mm-hmm. But of course, the best TV intro of all time is still The $6 Million Man. You don't even have to watch the show after you watch that intro. You get all you need.
Everything you need is in there.
Yep. Then you can turn off the show because it's not nearly as good as the intro.
No, the A-Team has a similar intro, and I think the music works better.
No. $6 Million Man intro is got talking over the roof. Everyone, she's breaking up. She's breaking up.
Steve Austin, a man barely alive.
The narrator comes in. Steve Austin, a man barely alive.
With a Steve Austin astronaut.
Sound effects.
But we can
rebuild everything.
Them. We can make them stronger, faster.
Oh, and the Knight Rider. And the Knight Rider was good too. A shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist.
I'm really enjoying reading the original issues of Mage, and reading Matt Wagner's editorials, seeing when he brings Sam Keith on board as an inker, which I had completely forgotten. I didn't even realize that Sam Keith inked a lot of Mage.
Sam Keith also started at Comico.
Yeah, he did. That's how Matt Wagner knew him.
But does the story still hold up?
Yeah, I like it a lot. The story, it's Matt Wagner, of course, his art isn't as good as it would become by the end of even by the end of the series. His art is terrific. But the beginning of the series, you can see he's a guy learning, but he's got some talent, and the storytelling is all clear. So it's very, very readable. It's good stuff. And I'd forgotten that there was a whole like secret to it. Like I think to give you the reveal of a series from the 1980s, it turns out he's King Arthur, or he's like an incarnation of a reincarnation of King Arthur or something. And only he doesn't know it there. So that's why he's fighting this eternal battle with these guys, or whatever. Might not be eternal. But there's hints of it in the beginning. Just little hints, but you really don't know what's going on. Which is why he's got by the end he discovers he's somehow related to King Arthur, and he's got the woman who was the driver of the Etzel, I forget her name, had this magical bat, which had a bat that made the story is not actually named after the lead character.
Mm-hmm.
The lead character is Kevin Matchstick. He's the guy who's King Arthur. Mage, what the story is named for the guy who's just called Mage, who it turns out is some sort of version of Merlin. And he's the magic user who's sort of guiding Kevin Matchstick along as much as he can. And he made, I forget the girl's name. She's driving an Edsel, though. She had a bat like in the back of her car that she used for beating people up or whatever. And he made it a magical bat. So it glows green. And it turns out like later on in the that first series, you find out that bat is really Excalibur. And she has been holding it until Kevin Matchstick comes to the realization of who he is. And then she turns the bat over to him. And that becomes his main sort of weapon, is this Excalibur bat. But really good book. If you get a chance to read it, read it. My last message didn't go for some reason. I was mixed up. David Simon did Homicide, Life on the Streets. Okay. Not Hill Street Blues. Television shows about cops are complete fantasies. Never had a positive experience with them. That's why these days they call it copaganda. Love Wagner's Batman Grendel stuff. I'm going to have to reread that one too. I haven't read that since it came out, but I liked it a lot. I remember one of the reasons I liked Batman Grendel a lot, besides the talent of Matt Wagner, is that it was a perfect, crossover because Grendel's a villain. Mm-hmm. There doesn't have to be any misunderstanding, this or that, because Grendel's a villain, Batman's a hero. Of course they're going to fight. Grendel the Shadow was really good too, which came out a few years ago from, I don't know who's publishing Grendel then, IDW or someone.
Dynamite, I think.
Dynamite, yeah, I think you're right.
Because Dynamite was they were publishing the Shadow and the other stories featuring the Condé Nast characters.
But they had Shadow. The Shadow Grendel was good. Was a good. Once again, it was a good crossover. It was, once again, Grendel's a villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Shadow's a hero, and somehow Grendel got. I don't even remember the mechanism. Went back in time to the Shadow's era, and was like, "Oh, well, I'm here. May as well be a criminal boss." And it was just. It was well done. I remember. I haven't read that one in a while either since it came out. I don't know. It's weird. It's like, I don't know. What did it come out? 3 years ago? 5 years ago? 10 years ago? Who knows? Time just blurs together.
Yeah.
Yeah, time is weird, especially you got to account for the COVID years, which makes
As we
everything
get older
seem
and COVID
longer.
messed up.
Yeah, and besides, we can say that the modern age of comics started in 1996. Everything since 1996 is happened at the same time.
Claremont and Davis's work on Excalibur is unparalleled. I never read that, being I was out of reading superhero comics by then. But I have a friend, my friend Rob, really loves that. Alan Davis, Chris Claremont, Excalibur, one of his favorites. So he'll back
It,
you
it
up
has
on that.
it has
That
a
I
better
enjoyed. That
mix.
series I enjoyed.
It has a better mix of humor and drama than Claremont and Burns' X-Men, which had its fair share of humor, and it was well timed. But on Excalibur, it's great because Davis can, without switching styles, he switches styles.
I was never that big an Alan Davis fan, only because he mainly did superhero stuff. I think it's like he never sort of stepped out. He never really did anything that was like to my taste. So that's why I never was that big a fan of. I mean, I'd look at his stuff and go, "Wow, this is nice," but
Did you try his 2000 AD stuff with
no,
Alan
I
Moore?
never saw that stuff. I've never seen it. Is that his earliest stuff?
Yeah, I haven't read Skiz, but the Orange Quench is funny if you're into early '80s UK humor. The Constructionist UK humor.
Did you like the last Grendel miniseries where he flies from planet to planet trying to find a good place to restart the human race? Star Trek Grendel? I enjoyed it until that weird ending when all of a sudden it became a Trump parody. It was just like, huh? That was strange. But yeah, I was enjoying that as it went along, but it wasn't my favorite Grendel of all time because the Hunter Rose Grendel is my favorite Grendel. That was really robot Grendel. Whatever. I've never been a big fan of Grendel as the devil in general. I like the Hunter Rose stories. I like the Christine Spar stories. I like whoever that was who took it over for 2 issues stories.
Well,
Trying to remember what issues of Mage Bernie Moreau. I don't know if I haven't gotten to them yet, but I know Bernie Moreau. Did he color the Grant? I'm trying to remember what he colored stuff for Kamiko. I can't remember what he colored with. But I remember he did color Matt Wagner stuff. But I think Matt Wagner was coloring a lot of his own stuff then with air marker. So I'm not sure. Yeah, that last issue brought it down, sadly. Yeah, that was the only thing.
But what I liked about I didn't finish the series, but what I liked about it, it confirms one of the fan theories that Grendel is essentially a meme,
Right.
and he's spreading throughout the galaxy. So it doesn't matter if he's looking for a place for humanity to settle down, because it's not about humanity; it's about him, Grendel.
Yeah, it's also it's much like a show like Star Trek, where they go to a new world to explore each episode. That's what he was doing. So that really can go on nearly forever. It didn't really need an ending, which is why I think there wasn't really that much of an ending for it. It's like because each individual issue is about that planet and does it suit his needs and what's the weird thing, So it's like the only possible ending is he fails or he succeeds, and then the story's over. But it was the journey, the exploration of each individual planet. That was the fun part. So it was okay that there was no real end to it. Favorite Kamiko book? Definitely Robotech. I always said it Kamiko, even though I think it's supposed to be Comico.
Yeah, everybody started seeing Kamiko because of Eddie P. But Eddie P. Also he mispronounces stuff a lot. So
people were saying Kamiko. I mean, I never heard it pronounced Comico, till years after that, till I started working at Marvel. Like everybody called it Kamiko. Well, I should say everybody.
Yeah.
The 4 people I knew who collected comic books called it Kamiko all through the 80s. Grendel's mimetic regression incarnate.
Yeah, that's the point. It functions like a self-propagating idea gene.
Right. Which is why I actually like the Hunter Rose Grendel best before it was that. When it was just
Because
Hunter
it's
Rose
uncomplicated.
Grendel.
Because it's uncomplicated, right?
Yeah, yeah. Because you could tell good stories with Hunter Rose. All the other ones, you had to explain why these people were acting weird. It's like, what? And the explanation was Grendel is a virus. You're like, what?
But they don't explain it. It's you infer
No,
that from reading the stories.
Right.
I mean,
that's what I mean.
when we're in the future with the vampires, nobody explains where Grendel comes from.
I mean, we the reader infer that from the writing. That's what the writers imply to us. But that was always just like, not that I didn't enjoy some of those stories, but I got tired of them because it's like I'm really tired of prophecy in stories. Because prophecy becomes like the motivation. It's like an all-purpose motivation. Why are these people doing these things? Prophecy. The Grendel meme became like that. Why are these people doing these things? The Grendel meme. And just like, oh, okay. And it became like it was the one explanation for everything, which I tired of eventually. But I did not tire of the Hunter Rose stories because there was usually a story there.
Right.
Ed mispronounces his own name. Hey, no one mispronounces stuff like our very own Howler Mouse. Okay, about mispronouncing. Fix chiaroscuro now. That's how we say it in art class. Just like clear, obscure. In art class, we always called it chiaroscuro. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Why? It's Italian. It's chiaroscuro.
Yeah, we don't say things with Italian accents here in the US of A. We un-accent everything. That's our deal.
That's why I am bringing you European culture.
Yes. Because you know what it is? If you're talking to somebody here in the US of A, and all of a sudden you pronounce a word in the accent of whatever country it comes from, you're looked at as snobbish. You're looked at as putting on airs. So if like in the middle of something you say some French word with a French accent, the people will be like, oh,
am I supposed to say a French word?
Than us? What was that?
How the hell am I supposed to say a French word? Mispronouncing on purpose?
You're supposed to Americanize it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be like Ed Piscor.
Just like in France, they Franco everything. Here we Americanize words. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, how I would answer that. Putain la merde, which is not pretentious French. It's street French.
They'll still think you're snooty. Doesn't matter. Chair oscuro. You're pretentious. There we go. To be fair, we make fun of that a bit as well. Chair oscuro.
Yeah. Well, in Canada, they don't even speak French. Quebecois French is not French. It requires subtitles.
Subtitles.
I'm looking at the titles of the Kamiko books or Comico. I always called it Kamiko as well.
Me too. Like I said, I always did.
And it's like
Comico always sounded dumb.
Yeah.
Why? It's comic. Oh, Comico.
Comico.
See, if they did commercials like that, then I would have remembered it. Instead, I look at it as like Kamiko.
So
it sounds like a video game.
Who the fuck
it looks like a video game logo.
A foreigner. The foreigner would speak multiple languages.
The New York City area is different. than the rest of the country, and because there's so many foreign languages spoken in New York City that New Yorkers don't even bat an eye.
Not at all. I
Mhm.
mean, it's part of our language. I mean, as a New Yorker, without even knowing it, we speak a little Yiddish. So it's in there. It's within our vocabulary.
Like I always
Um,
say, if somebody made up an accent and spoke to me all day, spoke to me in that accent all day, I would just be like, whatever. I would just accept it. And because like in New York, you don't even say, where do you come from? When you hear an accent, just because you hear accents all day.
Chinatown.
Yeah. Like that, someone could just make up an accent and talk in it, and we'd be just like, okay, wouldn't even blink an eye. Where's that guy
the
from?
Mid-Atlantic one, because they were, we watch movies with made-up
Mhm.
accents.
Hey there,
Yeah.
doll.
Yeah, I think it's called the Mid-Atlantic one.
Right.
It was just
That
made
one
up.
that
Yeah, so-
Cary Grant used to talk in.
I'm going to
And
start
everybody
speaking
else.
like Cary Grant.
Uh-huh.
Cary Grant's accent, which comes from nowhere.
Tabarnak. What
Barnack.
crazy stuff is he saying? Well, we should wrap it up for the night, so
Hmm.
I'll send them those files. Ignore the rest of them. It was once again had a fun time. Remember, kids, making textures is fun.
Reading the old ads is a lot of
Read
fun.
the old ads is fun.
Hmm.
And saying things with a French accent is fun. Spanish are the greatest. 7-Up soda is siete yuppie.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll catch you guys all next time. And have a
Have a
good
good week,
night.
everybody.
À bientôt, les gars.